Hello, I'm Paul Smith and I hope you are very well. Welcome to this week's edition of Money Matters. And this is the once a month special edition Q&A. Your questions, my answers. So if you'd like to get your questions answered, get them in the chat box below, ask questions. And what the team here at Touchstone is going to do is they're going to pick out the most interesting questions to challenge me and hopefully to benefit you. So I'm going to get straight into it. And if you'd like me to read out your name, then please include your name. And this one comes from Blog One Stop Shop, which I'm pretty sure isn't what they were christened. Can anybody get a buy-to-let mortgage? I have an IVA, would they accept me? The question is, can anybody get a buy-to-let mortgage? I've got an issue with my credit. Lending is given to legal entities. What's a legal entity? Well, a legal entity could be you as a person, but it could also be a company. It could be a limited liability partnership. It could be a pension fund. It could be all sorts of things. So the real question is not, have I got a credit issue, in this case an IVA, says Blog One Stop Shop. So that's an individual voluntary agreement, and that normally means somebody's gone a little bit overboard with regard to maybe credit card spending, and they've just come to an agreement with their creditors to write that money off, and they'll pay a certain amount of pence in the pound over a certain number of years. When that agreement is finished, then their credit record can start to go back to normal again. So during that period, it'd be very, very difficult for an individual that's got an IVA to get mortgage lending. However, if that person were part of a company, were a shareholder in a company, then probably not easy, I'm going to say, but a lot easier to get mortgage lending. So if you've got something like that, you really do need specialist advice. We help a lot of people rebuild their credit files because people get into difficulty with their credit files for all sorts of reasons, and quite often nothing to do with being their fault. I don't know, somebody gets made redundant, they take time to readjust, so because the salary's not coming in, but they've got the credit card there, they start maxing out their credit card. Oh, desperate, I'm going to go and get a payday loan. Oh my God. So you've gone from perfectly good credit, hardly using your credit card, through to, well, I've lost my salary, so I'm going to use my credit card, through to, I've just filled up my credit card, so I'm going to go get some payday loan money. Before you know where you are, financially speaking, you're way underwater. So I understand how it happens. You can do all sorts of things to rebuild your credit, and you can do all sorts of things to make money in property without buying property. Rent to rent serviced apartments, rent to rent HMOs, lease options, deal packaging. So can you work with other private individuals who lend you money? All right, so I hope that answers that question. Blog One Stop Shop. Next one. Would HMO strategy work in cities in the south, the southwest, for example, Bristol, Exeter, etc., where house prices are a lot higher? And that's from Vivian Toe. All right, Vivian. So, first up, I better explain what HMOs are, because I can't assume everybody knows that. What's an HMO? A HMO is a regular flat or a house, but you're not letting out the whole flat or the house. You're letting out a room, typically, in that flat or the house. So you might know it as student accommodation, a house share, house in multiple occupation. It's all the same thing from this perspective. Typically, somebody is renting a room in a house by the week, and the amount of rent they're paying includes all the bills and the Wi-Fi, and everything else. So it's just like, I don't know, in Doncaster it would be £100 a week for a room. So would HMO strategy work in the cities in the south, the southwest, Bristol, Exeter, where house prices are a lot higher, says Vivian. Yeah, is a short answer. There's loads of HMOs in Bristol. There's loads of HMOs in Exeter. I've got a friend in Cornwall who's just doing this, and they're making fantastic money. So will HMO strategy work in the South and Southwest? Yes. Suggestion, rather than buying regular houses, if you want to get more affordable properties, how about you go and look at guest houses or hotels or care homes or things that are shutting down in failing industries? Because it's really hard to make a care home work unless you've got at least 30 beds. How do I know? Well, I bought one. I live in it. So what I bought was a 9-bed care home that effectively went bust. I did buy the house, but I bought the property as part of the care home business. See the difference? So I didn't buy a house, I bought a care home business that happened to own a house. So if you're taking properties like that and then bringing them back into use as HMOs, can you make really, really good money? You bet you can. So great question, thank you. Next one, Shijana Gurung. So Shijana is saying, fantastic question, love it. How do I open a SASS? Do I need a consultant or can I do it myself with help? Fantastic. SSAS, Small Self-Administered Scheme. We're talking about pensions. So a SASS can be for up to 11 people. It's a really, really tax efficient way to do things. It's a trust, so any money in it is not subject to inheritance tax, yada, yada, yada. So I'm not trying to sell you on the benefits of a SASS, I'm just trying to tell you what a SASS is so you know what I'm talking about. Do I need a consultant? Well, by consultant, I think you mean an IFA, an independent financial advisor, or a pension specialist. Or can I do it myself? Here's the news, you can do it yourself. And I know people that have spent anything up to £15,000 to open a SASS. If you want to, you can not only do it yourself, I mean, I'm not saying that it's, you've got to learn stuff, you have to read books and things, but if you want to, you can absolutely do it yourself. And I'm going to give you a company name that you can do it with, and I'm going to tell you why afterwards, but let me give you a company name. This is the firm that we use, Zaffinity, X-Affinity, Zaffinity, X-Affinity, but it's only got one F. Why can't they spell it? Well, whatever, separate subject, separate day. So Zaffinity, and I'll tell you why. The setup cost for Zaffinity, 0. So if you want not only to set it up for yourself with no IFA and get proper support for nothing, I'd recommend you talk to Zaffinity. If you're not feeling confident to do it yourself, for goodness sake, don't. But I want to give you an example of our managing director, Abby Hookway. She'd worked at BT for, I think, 6 or 7 years in her early 20s, so a few years ago. And she'd kind of forgotten about the pension. She heard me talking about pensions. So she did what I asked. She got her pension statement out to find out what she would get from that pension when she was 65. Which is many, many years away for Abby. So she looked it all up, and it works out that she was gonna get, God, what was it, £600 a year. So it's like £12 a week. Oh my God. She didn't set up a SASS, she set up a SIP. Self-invested personal pension. Sorry for all these acronyms, by the way. Just what they call them. And she did that as a personal pension. She did that in 2 weeks for nothing with Zaffinity, and she's now got £38,000 in her pension pot that she can invest until she gets to retirement age. Do you need a consultant or an IFA? No, do it yourself. I could have said that really, couldn't I? But then it wouldn't probably been as interesting. I don't know, it might be. Next, now here we go. I'd love to tell you who asked this question. I think this is a robot. This is called, the person that asked this question is ST3. So I'm pretty sure that the person isn't called ST3, that's unlikely. Do rental properties still make a profit when markets crash? When buyers can afford to buy, then the demand drops for renting. All right, love the thinking. It's not normal thinking, but I love the thinking. So here's the thinking. Do rentals, in other words, do buy-to-lets, still make a profit when markets crash? Because ST3 thinks when buyers can afford to buy, so if the house price was up here, market crash, whoops, it's down here. Now the buyers can afford to buy, so they buy it, so there's less renters. That's the logic, I get it. What actually happens in a market correction, so the last market correction crash that we saw was 2008, and property prices across the UK dropped by about 20%. When the market does that, all the banks tighten up the lending criteria, so it's much harder to borrow. But your normal person that's got, you know, a partner and a couple of kids or something, they don't buy houses for cash. They need a mortgage. And in a recession, mortgages are harder to get. And critically, if house prices have just come down and you ST3 as a property investor, think, oh, well, that's good because they're more affordable now. But the general person in the street is like, oh my God, house prices have just dropped. If I buy a house, I'm going to go bankrupt. So it's not actually about price, it's about market sentiment, and the two are linked. So if the market sentiment is house prices are going down, that means the man on the street, the man on the Clapham omnibus, to quote that mythical creature, thinks property's a stupid thing to buy, I'm not buying it. So, in a recession, normally rents go up. I'm 54, I've seen several recessions. I can tell you this, every recession, rents go up, not down. So I hope that answers that question. All right, I hope this week's edition of Money Matters has been useful to you. If you want to get your name in lights and a future Money Matters, get your question in the box below. So if you want to try and ask me a complicated question, if you've got a burning thing in the back of your head thinking, oh yeah, I'd love to be a property investor, but I need to know how this works, now's your chance. It's free. Get yourself along to a Touchstone event, join us at a webinar, ask a question on Money Matters, watch all our videos on YouTube. We want to help. We want to inspire you to become financially free. That's the end of this week's Money Matters. Watch out for next week's edition. If you've liked it, please literally like it. Subscribe to the channel. Get your friends to do the same. You've been wonderful. I've been Paul. See you next time. Bye-bye.